Hey everyone, welcome to the very first Azure Developers Live. I'm James Montemagno. I'm going to be your host for the day. I'm super excited. If you've been on the Azure Developers YouTube or Twitch channels or followed the teams at all, you know that there's been all these amazing community stand-ups that the teams have been doing each and every single week, which has been so awesome. We've all decided to join forces this year to kick off 2025 and do things a little bit different, which is kind of featuring multiple teams that are building and creating brand new features and awesome things for all of you. So you're going to see highlights and updates from all the different teams across Azure, including Azure Functions, Container Apps, Redis, Data Builder, AZD, APIM, APIC, all the amazing things that you know and love right here. So the plan here is to basically kind of come out every week or every other week and show off different things from different teams, and also how those things work together, which is awesome because many of us are using not just one Azure service, but many Azure services. So today we have an action-packed agenda that I'm so excited about. We have some brand new things happening in Azure Managed Redis. We have some updates from the AZD team, which I absolutely love and using every single day with my .NET Aspire applications. Some really cool stuff from the Functions team with Flex Consumption. And there's going to be a new release from the Data API Builder team. So what's cool is that you can interact with teams, leave chat messages. All of these are recorded. They're available on the Azure Developers YouTube, and they're also posted on the Azure Developers page as well. So we have a whole bunch of cool things. We're going to drop some links in the chat along the way as well, so you can stay up to date. And if you're over here for the first time on the Azure Developers YouTube, well, welcome. There's amazing getting started videos, deep dive features, sessions, and events happening all the time. So definitely check them out. All right, a few things before we get into the topics today is where to actually look for some of the amazing stuff from the team. Well, the first thing is definitely to check out developer.microsoft.com. This is the one-stop shop for everything Microsoft for developers. And if you haven't yet, click on products and click on Microsoft Azure right here. This is going to bring you to the Azure Developer Hub, your one-stop shop for all things Azure developers. You can check out everything that's happening, all the brand new releases, new feature videos, product deep dives, and so much more. If you're looking to get started with certain Azure features and products, there's brand new ways to get started, deep dive in person on Microsoft Learn, and so much more. And no matter what programming language you're using, the team's got you covered as well. So definitely check that out. Now, if you're also looking to stay up to date with everything in Azure Developer World, of course, we have great socials, but also additionally, there's great blogs that you can stay up to date with as well. The Azure SDK blog on Dev Blogs is a one-stop shop for everything in the Azure SDK, but AZD and so much more. You can find out everything about the brand new releases, but also some feature deep dives on where to get started. So you're going to see some of these people today, which is so cool. And I'm excited to see what's up in AZD. There's also another blog on Tech Community, which is the Apps on Azure blog. So if you just go ahead and Bing that or Google that, Apps on Azure blog, this will come up. And again, this is another great place to get deep dives, feature announcements, and so much more from all the different teams across Microsoft and Azure. Not only just what's new, but some deep dives as well. So getting started, for example, with Azure Fleet Manager or some new things happening in Azure DevOps World or AKS or ACA. There's some great blog posts in this last few weeks, actually. One here specifically on getting started and troubleshooting Azure Container App networking with Network Tester. So Joe actually put this out, how to actually use all these connection checker things and how to easily make sure everything is up and running and is working great in your ACA apps. Another one I want to point out here as well is this brand new APIM hub. So Azure API Management. They have an APIM Love little URL here. It's kind of a showcase, a one-stop shop for everything Azure API Management. What's cool is that you get to see all the cool videos and live streams and stand-ups that the team has done, but also get up to date on what they're doing, the service change log, new hands-on labs, getting started, and so much more. So super cool to see that as well. And finally, one thing I wanted to point out here was another blog that's on Tech Community as well that I found super interesting, which is a brand new setting for session affinity proxying in Azure App Service configuration. So if you're using things and you're behind Azure Front Door or Application Gateway, for example, with or without custom domains, Gonzalo here walks you through how to actually simplify that configuration as well. So some really cool things. I just want to point out some of the cool things happening in and around the community. All right. Feel free at any time to leave chats in the comments. We'll be monitoring them as well. And of course, you can leave comments later on YouTube to go ahead and chat with the team and see what's going on. But I'm going to bring up Shruti here first, who is going to be doing a deep dive talking about what's new in Azure Managed Redis. So let me bring on Shruti. How's it going, Shruti?
Hey, good morning, James. I am good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I
I'm
mean,
so excited to be here.
yeah, I had a few machine issues, but everything's running good now. So
All's well that ends well. So just glad to be here and excited to share what I have today for developers out there using Redis. So
awesome.
yeah.
I'll bring it up and I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, James. Hello, everyone. I am Shruti. I'm one of the product managers for Redis, Azure Managed Redis. And today I want to talk about Azure Managed Redis, which is a fleet or a group of SKUs that we released just last November. It was an announcement that happened at Ignite. So I just want to, give some overview of what those queues are. Looks like there's some formatting issues, but never mind. We still have all the content there, and we can still go ahead. Anyway, so Azure Managed Redis is powered by the multi-core Redis enterprise software, and because it's multi-core, it provides exceptional memory, exceptional throughput, latency, and performance throughput. And we have also decided to slash prices, so it's all of these goodness, the higher throughput memory, higher throughput and latency come at much cheaper prices. And Azure Managed Redis also has a lot of advanced enterprise grade features like active geo replication, vector storage, vector search, and then advanced Redis modules and Redis data structures. In the past, all of these advanced features were only available on our very high end SKUs, but now we are making it available for all tiers and all SKUs with Azure Managed Redis. And then along with the active geo replication, Azure Managed Redis also comes with an industry-leading 5 nines of availability SLAs, and then you get automatic zone redundancy for your instances without an additional cost. And obviously, it does come with Entra ID authentication as well. So, and then along with that, we have also made it easier to use. We have removed the marketplace requirement, which used to be a big blocker or adopting, which blocked adoption for a lot of customers. So we've removed that marketplace requirement, and then this is a first-party Microsoft offering, but we do work with Redis Inc. in the background, and we get you the latest and greatest capabilities, Redis capabilities directly to your portal. So we don't have to worry about that. We do all that background work with collaboration with Redis Inc. For you. Then moving on, next slide. So we've also restructured the SKUs a little bit. In the past, our previous offerings, the only way to get more throughput or more performance was to scale up to a bigger instance, which meant that you also get more memory, but you don't really need more memory, you just need more performance. But then there was no way to separate those things out. So we have restructured the SKUs into three different options. So the flash optimized one is where you get a combination of NVMe storage plus RAM. So that's a great option when you're okay with a slightly lower throughput, but then you get a great price per GB. So that's the cheapest option when you need a lot of memory. There's a memory optimized option, which is great for your workloads, which don't need the topmost throughput. And then the balanced one is great for most standard workloads. And then compute optimized is the one that you would go for if you need the maximum throughput. Obviously, all of these are priced differently so that you get options to choose the right SKU and the right tiers for your requirements. And then from a performance perspective, we've put together some comparison of how do these memory optimized, balanced, and compute optimized fare against our existing tiers. So if you look at this is a comparison of a 24 GB instance across standard, premium. Those are our previous SKUs that we offer currently, and then the new ones. As you can see, the new ones are much more performant, up to 15 times more performant if you look at the compute optimized. So that's the one that you would go for if you need that kind of a throughput. but then we've also priced them aggressively, and then this is a comparison of the pricing that we've put together. So from a pricing perspective, the memory optimized is much more cheaper than the what premium is, but then it's still it's kind of similar performance, but then if you are okay with a slightly lower performance, but then you get to you get to do cost optimization by choosing the right throughput that you need here. So the compute optimize, if you that you look for, that you're looking at, you get 5x the performance of a current tier at the same price. So you get to pick and choose what do you need. Do you care about more performance, more or more cost optimization? In addition to the slashing the prices, we've also added more pricing optimizations that you can do beyond just the SKUs. So because of Azure Managed Redis, we have all features available in all SKUs and tiers. That means you don't need to upgrade, or you don't need to go to a high-end tier just to get that one specific feature that you were looking for. So all tiers get all features. So that's a great way to save on some costs. So you don't need unnecessarily higher end SKUs. And then we've also added a non-HA mode, which is like the non-high availability mode, essentially, which helps you cut down your prices in half. And those are great options for development or dev test scenarios. And then obviously more options by choosing memory and performance means you pay for only what you need, and then you don't end up paying more than what you need. So those are additional pricing optimizations that we've added. And in addition to latency and throughput improvement, we've also improved on management operations. So these are, more lot of not overlooked a lot of times, but it's very important to have the right scaling times and creation times so that the DevOps team and the developers have the right have a good experience of using of managed Redis throughout the lifetime. Creating and scaling, that those are important operations that happen in production workloads. So we have improved on those operations as well in comparison to our existing SKUs. And then let's dive a little bit deeper into one after the other, the advanced features that Azure Managed Redis is now offering. So active replication is very powerful and enterprise grade geo replication that we offer. So you can connect up to 5 separate Azure Managed Redis instances. They could be in different regions, and then once they are connected, there's an all of them have active geo replication. What that means is essentially you can read from any instance, and you can also write to any of the instances. So which is this kind of replication is very powerful and ends up powering the 5 nines of SLA that Azure Managed Redis promises. These kind of replications are very commonly used for business continuity and disaster recovery scenarios, and also for global applications who want to keep a local copy of data, locally. So the geo replication is a great feature for that perspective. And then in recent years, Redis has also added new advanced data structures and modules. So the probabilistic data structure, this is great for deduping or counting large data sets in a very efficient way. Sometimes it compromises preciseness, but that's the design of there. Like you get more speed over precision there. And then query engine, that's the Redis search module. It supports it helps Redis support real-time indexing and real-time querying, and it can also query vector data. So it's a great option to store and search vectors, vector embeddings, and then also helps make your intelligent applications go faster. We'll talk about it a bit later as well. But that's the Redis search module. And then Redis also has a time series native data structure, which helps with ingesting live data stream, and it's great for IoT scenarios, and that's the Redis time series module. And then there's a Redis JSON module as well, which is great for working on JSON documents directly. And then basically it gives you the option of working with JSON modules. You can edit, add, or search on JSON documents without having to serialize and deserialize JSON all the time. So all of these are recent additions to Redis, the Redis Community Edition, and these are now available on Azure Managed Redis on all SKUs. And then the next thing I want to cover quickly is Redis and AI. So, like I mentioned, Redis has support for vector storage capabilities for a long time now, and all of it has great community support, and it's battle tested as well. And you get these functionalities with Azure Managed Redis as well. And then obviously there's a lot of support for Redis on common AI libraries like LangChain and Semantic Kernel because it has been out for a long time. And the design of Redis that it's an in-memory store, in-memory data store, which gives you sub-millisecond latencies. That sub-millisecond latency is great for some real-time AI use cases, and Redis gets heavily used on some real-time AI scenarios as well. And then obviously, you can also use Redis for semantic caching, which helps improve the latency of your intelligent apps. And then it can also store chat memories. So in addition to your traditional caching scenarios, Redis also adds a great caching layer for your intelligent apps and helps with cost management of your intelligent apps as well. So all of these capabilities are available in all tiers of Azure Managed Redis. And in addition to all the features, we want to make sure our developers feel loved as well, right? Like we are the Azure developer group. So in addition, so we have added Entra ID authentication for passwordless authentication, which simplifies the developer experience of managing multiple instances. .NET, the latest .NET also has announced new providers for Redis caching. So output cache provider, so ASP.NET output cache provider is a great abstraction on doing boilerplate code that you have with Redis. So it simplifies that boilerplate code. And then hybrid caching is also a mechanism of quickly switching between in-memory caching and managed Redis caching. So all of these abstractions are available right now, which simplify your developer experience heavily. There's also a VS Code extension that was released recently where you can look into your Redis data directly from your VS Code. So there's an extension, you install that extension, and an extension can query your Redis data directly. So you don't have to go to a different instance or a Azure portal or anything. So this is a great extension for developers, and then that can be leveraged during development. So yeah, these are all the enhanced developer experience that we have. All of this is available in preview right now. So you can go to aka.ms/Azure Managed Redis, or you can find all of the information that I just mentioned on that link, the AKMS link. And then, of course, if you have any questions, comments, feedback, anything that we can help you with, reach us at Azure Managed Redis at Microsoft.com. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shruti. I had a quick question for you.
Yeah.
I know you kind of talked about it a little bit in the beginning, but can you talk a little bit about the difference between Azure Managed Redis versus maybe what folks are, used to using, which would just be
Yeah.
Azure Cache for Redis, and kind of like when you would pick one versus the other, or the best use case for this? I know you kind of covered it a little bit, but for folks maybe that are brand new to
Yeah.
Azure Redis.
Of course, great question, James. Thanks for asking those questions. I should definitely clarify. So Azure Managed, so the Redis offerings on Azure date back to like 2014 or something. So the first SKUs that we launched were released exactly over 10 years ago. And we started out with basic, standard, and premium offerings, which are based on the Redis open source option. So we have the Redis open source, which is a very popular open source offering, and the basic, standard, premium tiers were based on the open source offering. There has been a license change on Redis licensing in the past. I know most of you are probably aware of it. And we are now working with Redis Inc. So what we have decided is to come up with this Azure Managed Redis, which has been built in collaboration with Redis Inc., but is a Microsoft first-party offering altogether. So it's powered by the Redis Enterprise Core, which is a multi-core, which has a multi-core architecture, which means that it is able to utilize all the underlying cores of a VM very efficiently, which helps get the right throughput improvement that we are looking for, and also at a better cost point. That's how we are able to improve the latency and performance of these Azure Managed Redis instances, but at a better price. So that's the difference there. If you're starting out with new workloads, or if you're looking to expand on your Redis usage, or if you're just considering whether you should go for hosting your own Redis versus using some kind of managed Redis, do give Azure Managed a try out, and then I'm sure I'm very hopeful it it meets your requirements. And if there's complaints, we're obviously happy to hear. But if you have good experience, that would also be very welcome to hear about your experiences. So that's where we are. That's how Azure Managed came into picture. We have utilized all our learnings from the 10 years of operating a managed Redis offering, and we have improved on all of those things with this new offering. So yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, one more question for you as well. So like as far as going from Azure Cache for Redis to Azure Managed Redis, is it like a one-to-one feature parity? So like if someone was using Azure Cache for Redis and wanted to move over, is it seamless transition, or like what would that look like from like kind of real world experience?
Right. So so the Redis enterprise architecture at its core, it does utilize the open source Redis software. So it is compatible complete for most of the scenarios. There are a few corner cases, but like very few corner cases that customers may hit into. But majority of the customers shouldn't have any problems. And from a migration standpoint, we are looking into easing that migration in the future. But right now, customers can easily export their data from the existing Redis instances and get it onto the new instances of Azure Managed Redis, and then start using Azure Managed Redis. So all the client libraries that are out there are completely compatible with Azure Managed Redis as well, because since it's Redis at the core of it. So there's no changes required on the client library aspect. You can continue using the same client library aspect. You just connect to a different endpoint than what you were connecting in the past.
Very cool.
Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely give it a go, because I've been using a lot of Azure Redis with my .NET Aspire applications. That is for sure. So
yes,
so
we're working with .NET Aspire folks as well to see how they can better leverage Azure Managed Redis in future scenarios. Right now, it heavily uses the basic, standard, and premium tiers, but yeah, we'll get there slowly and steadily. Yep.
Very cool. Well, awesome. Shruti, thank you so much. And of course, don't forget, you can leave comments at any time. The team will be hanging around as well. Thanks, Shruti, so much for showing us off. I appreciate it.
Thanks, James. Thanks for the opportunity. Have a good day.
See you next month. Cheers. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. We have so much more coming for Azure Developers Live today. I'm super excited because just like I use a lot of Redis in my .NET Aspire applications, this is also something that I use all the time in my .NET Aspire project, which is AZD, or the Azure Developer CLI. I'm going to bring up Kristen here, and let me go ahead and bring up Marina. There we go as well. How's it going?
Good. Nice to see you, James.
Yeah, I'm so.
Marina.
Hello, James. Nice to see you.
Yeah, I'm so excited to hear everything that's new in AZD world, everything that's happening. So I'll let you two just take it away. I'm going to go hide myself, and yeah, go for it.
Sounds good. Hey, Marina.
Hello,
good
Kristen.
to be here with you. So we are excited to join you all and join this new joint call today to talk about what we've been up to. So we were pretty busy with GitHub Universe and then Microsoft Ignite, and we showed off a lot of stuff that we were doing at the end of the year. Then we took a break, and so we're here to share with you what's been happening ever since then. So let's go ahead, and I'll bring up my screen here. Marina, we have everything here in our community call. So Marina and I will go through what our updates are, and then we'll give you a great update on something pretty exciting around our AI template gallery. And I want to invite you to feel free to follow up with us here in this discussion. So the way that Marina and the team and I do this is we have a discussion board. We put the community call here. We put the agenda items that we'll be sharing. And then there's room for comments and discussion and questions either before the call or after the call. And of course, we put all of our show notes here and all the links as well as into the YouTube channel. So this is where we can have the discussion. So with that, we'll take it away. So we have a few new things that I'll go over. In November, we launched a really cool new feature, and we've been working on this and are continuing to work on this in 2025 as we kick off the year. And this is where you can compose your app with an AZD add. So you can now start to add to your application, and you can do this in a way that is different than starting with the template. So for example, we show you how to do this if you're starting from code, an existing code base, and you're still using that same simplified init flow that we all love. And you can also do it from scratch. So we show you how you can like basically from scratch, just start composing and building up your application. And then once you've gone through the adding to your application and getting it going, adding your resources, then we also walk you through how to get the bicep code. We've put out this new feature and we're always open to chatting about it. So we wanted to make sure that you are aware of it here in the community call. And of course, once you start using our AZD composability with the new feature AZD add, please reach out to us and let us know. Of course, there's discussions in the discussion board I shared, and Marina and I and the team would love to hear from you. Next up, we came back from the holiday end of year break and we had a big CDN change. So you may have heard about this in some of the other applications. It affected quite a few people. And so we're here just to give a little public service announcement about how this might affect you with AZD. And this is the link that we'll share. It's in our discussion board. But basically the TLDR, what does this mean to me is basically you want to make sure that when you're using your GitHub Actions or your Azure DevOps tasks, that you are setting up your CI/CD pipeline in a way that makes sure that you're using the latest version. So if you are not, if you're on a previous version, you probably will be affected with this. So make sure that your GitHub Actions and your DevOps tasks are up to date, and then you should be good. The second way that this might impact you is please don't hard code your names into your host names directly. Like that will not work for installing AZD, and that's probably not a best practice. So you will definitely be impacted if that is the case. So we do have this blog post where we go into the details and you can see if you're impacted and how to fix it. And then if you go to our issues in our repo, we do have the issue pinned here so that you can like have conversations with us or get more instructions on that. So that's kind of a PSA from us on the CDN changes. And then next, we'll talk about our AI template gallery. So Marina is here with me today. And Marina, you've been doing so many cool things with the AI template gallery over the last year, starting with the awesome AZD template gallery that folks may know and love. We started noticing that people wanted more and more AI applications, and those AI applications were getting used quite a bit. And so we built a curated AI app gallery, and this post, which we'll put in the discussion board, will go over all the details of it. And to see it live and in action, I have Marina here with me today. So Marina, I'm going to turn it over to you to tell us a little bit more about the gallery, give us a tour and a demo. So let's go ahead and let's bring up your screen.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kristen. So let me demo in the AI app template site. So the first question is, what is the AI app template site? This site, as Kristen mentioned, is designed for users to browse their AI application templates for quick starts and deployment to Azure. We currently offer 33 templates, and each of these templates is configured to use AZD. Some of you may be familiar that we have a gallery called Awesome AZD site with over 160 templates. So you might wonder why we have this AI app template sites with only 33 templates.
Hey, Marina.
Well,
hey, Marina.
I
I think maybe you just shared one tab instead of the whole browser. So we just see a white screen right now. So maybe stop sharing it.
There we go.
No, I see
There
that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the gallery we know and love.
Okay, cool. Sorry about that. Perfect.
Yeah, maybe it's just like a network legacy or something like that. But yeah, so you might wonder why we have this AI app template set with only 33 templates. Well, we correlated the selection of first-party and official third-party templates specifically for AI usage. All templates have a set of standards, consistency right out of box. And these templates are regularly tested in our validation pipeline. So we are notified immediately if an issue comes up with a dependency or change that will cause the template to break. That keeps each template working, ensuring we don't have stale templates. So if you're new to Azure or if you're interested in AI usage, this site is a great start point to explore AI application templates. And then you could also modify the templates with your own customizations. So now let's go to the website and take a look at the functionalities. By looking at the sites, you will find out that we have this featured AI templates. Those are the templates that have the high quality, and each of these templates has a video demo link here explaining the templates and how do you deploy to the Azure. And let's go down a little bit and see what other stuff we have. So from this window, you can see at the left side, we have this filter bar, which allows you to filter different through 6 categories, including task, language, collection, model, and database. And at the right side, here is our template gallery card. We also have the search bar feature, which allows you to search for the templates. And we also have the sort by bar. If you're so looking at this sort by bar, you could see right now we are in default with alphabetical order from A to Z. We have the reverse order. We have the order with like the newest template to the old to new. And we also have this new feature called most popular. So let's click on the most popular and see what do we pop up. This most popular is like we calculate the logic equally with 4 categories, including the GitHub information, numbers of folks and stars on GitHub, the activity on the repository, what is the last updated date, the success rate on successful deployment rate over the past months, and also the validation result. So based on our system logic, we can see the first one pop up is RAG chat with Azure AI Search plus Python. So maybe this is something that I want to take a look at. And we have a brief description and explain this template, creates a ChatGPT-like front-end with API backend that uses like OpenAI chat model to answer the questions. And we can understand that this is like use Python and also use TypeScript. We are having the AI modeling with GPT 3.5 Turbo. And if we want to take a look, we also have like some AI-related service that we are using. So let's take a look at this template. And by clicking on that, this brings us to the template detail page. We could see that we have a quick start command. If you're familiar to ADD, we use ADD init to download the template code to your local repository, to your local folder. And on the right side, we can see that we have a summary of the template, including this is created by Azure Content App. The last update date is January 17, and this is the language we use. This is the models. What are the tags we are using? This is for guided search. If you're interested in the estimate cost, this link will bring you to the price calculator website. And since this is one of the featured AI templates, it also has a video demo. There are 2 ways you can start with. First, you can directly open that in the GitHub code spaces. Then you are just ready to deploy with everything you need and even no need to install ADD. Or if you want to take a look at that, the details, you could just like go to the GitHub README and it will explain the details and like what is this templates, what are the deploying, how did you run, and like any guidance. And I'm going to go back to our template detail page. And let's look at the overview part. This will include a screenshot of what this deployment may look like after you deploy the template. What is like the chat experience or front end look like. If we go a little bit down, this also including the architectural diagram of this templates. This is a table that what Azure services is included. And if you are new to ADD, and you can go to the Get Started page, This explains like what you may need to have, including like having the Azure account, have access to Azure OpenAI, having the right Azure permission to deploy to your subscription or resources. And if we go down, if you're interested in directly deploy it from local, then those are the prerequisites that you want to have, and make sure you install it before you deploy the templates. After downloading the template code using add init command and then enter an environment name for your project, the next thing you want to do is to sign up using your Azure account. And then you could deploy the resources and app to your Azure subscription with just this one command, add app. Once you're finished with the templates, cleaning up those resources and delete the whole resources using add down. And so I have been browsing these templates. Maybe that is not something that I want. I know that I'm interested in Python or TypeScript, but what are the other languages and other options that I want to have? So let me go back to the site again and take a look at the other functions we have. So let's say that I might be interested, instead of guided search, I want to do agent. And I want to try a language with Java. You can see this gray out feature, which brings you, so it is filtering based on the cards. Right now, we only have one template with agent and Java, but if you can try other options with like JavaScript, you are able to select the different model and database based on your interest. You could also unselect it on the filter bar, or just like close these, even clear all on the filter apply bar. You can also try to search. Let's say if you're interested in chat, then those are the features that you may you want to look at for the templates for the chat. And if we go a little bit down, we also have this learning resources, which allows you to explore modules on Azure AI Foundry, or if you're interested in learn more about the Azure ADD CLI templates, here is a great resources for you. So if you have any interest or feedback for the site, or if you want to see other templates that may not be here, but you're interested, feel free to use this survey card to submit your feedback through our survey, and we're happy to make improvements and on the site. And thank you so much, folks.
This was awesome, Marina. And if you want to see another demo to follow up, if you take one of the templates that you find and you want to see it get deployed, we were just on the Open at Microsoft episode most recently, and showed that we can deploy one of those templates in just minutes. So as a next step, it's really great to go play with the gallery and then select a template and try it out for yourself. And if you have any questions about how it works, check out the Open at Microsoft episode where we deploy one of the templates.
Awesome. That was amazing. I love playing around with the AI app templates. I love that there's so many different programming languages too, that you can just like select one and kind of go. I did have a question for you really quick as well for the AI app templates. Is like, who manages all of those? Like, can people contribute to them? Obviously I think they're all open source, like you said. Like, if someone had a great idea to build one, like, how would someone go about that process?
So the process of like the site, currently our site is doing the first party templates or third-party templates. If you're interested in that, you could submit. So we have a form, and I think we can drop it in the chat. You can submit a form including like what is the GitHub repository and what are those like titles, name, authoring, what are the tags. We have a very detailed guidance through the form. Once you submit the form, it will send to us, and we have the whole automated system to open the PR. We also will communicate with you through the email. This repository right now is private, but you will be able to see it through email. And we have the backend pipeline to run your templates and do the validation. And once it is approved and merged, your templates will be on the site for the next release. We have regular release every Wednesday.
Yeah, so
Awesome.
with the 2 template galleries, with Awesome AZD, you can submit a template by just sending a PR to us. And then we review the template, we publish it in the gallery. This one works a little bit differently. So as Marina was describing the testing pipeline, this is a higher touch, more curated template gallery so that it's more focused on templates that we are sure that we're helping to maintain within Microsoft and making sure that it has the reliability of deploying an AI app quickly. And so we want to partner with people, and we do that through the form that Marina described. And then once your template is in this gallery, it automatically goes into the community gallery. If you have a template for the community gallery, you can follow the same process, which is just the PR that we always do on Awesome ACD.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Yeah, I love that there's like a super simple cost estimator as well. And like you can filter by models as well. So super cool. Well, anything else from the two of you before we continue on?
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for showing off all the awesome stuff. And we dropped a link also to the Azure Dev GitHub discussion that Kristen talked about as well. So feel free to leave comments over there or here on YouTube as well. Well, thank you two so much. And we'll talk to you soon.
See you, James.
Bye.
See you.
Awesome. Well, feel free to continue to ask questions in the chat. And of course, if you're new here on the Azure Developers YouTube, don't forget to jam that like button, hit subscribe as well, so you get updated every time we do live streams here on the channel. We have a bunch more planned, including a new one from the Azure Logic Apps team. And we have another one coming up in February for Azure Developers Live, featuring some awesome new stuff as well. We're going to continue on another one of my favorite services inside of Azure. I literally was just deploying brand new Azure Functions last week, every single day for my mobile apps, for my web apps, everything like that. And I'm super excited because there's so much happening in the world of Azure Functions. And the one, the only, Thiago is here. How's it going, buddy? Good to see you.
Hey, James.
It's been a while. It's good seeing you again.
Yeah, you too.
Well, I do not want to waste a moment. I cannot wait. I was diving through all of the amazing announcements from not only just Ignite, but just everything that's been rolling out. And like, oh my goodness, I've been using Functions and Aspire together, and I was meeting with the team. I was just like, oh, like I was so good. I love it. Can't help it. I talked to Fabio, and I'm like, oh, I just love, I love all of the products, but man, Functions is like out there. So I'll let you take it away, buddy, and go from there.
All right. Can you bring my screen up? There we go. So for today, I just wanted to highlight a hands-on lab that we did in November at Ignite. We did it in person there, but I wanted to just do a quick show and tell of it for you, and then share the links so that you can also follow the same hands-on lab at home by yourself. So the scenario for it is that you are at work and you are a developer maintaining systems for the company, and you want to simplify the process of following up with customers on some highlights from conversations that your team has had with them. And you got approval from legal to leverage AI to analyze those calls and then highlight the insights to automate the recommendations. So that's the scenario of the hands-on lab. And what it looks like from an architecture perspective is that we have two main functions here. One is a function just as an uploader. So pretend like the call system is up here, and it will call into this function app to upload the audio of the call. That gets saved into storage account, and it triggers from event grid. It automatically or instantly will tell Azure Functions that a new audio was uploaded. This starts up a durable function, an orchestration there in durable function that will then call into both Azure OpenAI and speech to text to transcribe that audio file and also summarize the highlights of that audio file. It does a pattern of checking in. Of course, the audio could be quite long, so it does a pattern of checking how the process is going for the transcription. And once it's done, then it calls into the LLM to get the highlights, and then saves all the whole transcription plus the highlight into Cosmos DB as text. So that's the architecture. And let's have a look in Azure on the portal, what that looks like. We have this as a great AZD team just showed us. It is deployed from an AZD, so you can just go to the repo and say AZD up. And it creates quite a few assets. It creates the two Azure functions, the upload one and the orchestration one, and as well as the Azure OpenAI, speech-to-text, storage accounts for the audio and for the functions working, and everything else that is required there. I found that a good way to view what that all looks like end-to-end is just looking at app insights into the application map. So here's where, let me first show you an upload, for example. So here we have two files in or assets, one that is just talks about Microsoft AI and one for Azure Functions. And here I'm just going to send a request to upload the Microsoft AI file up into Azure. So took a few seconds there, and it uploaded the file to the storage account. This would have triggered a so that's the upload there that happened, and that would have triggered through event grid from the storage account or durable function here. And then durable function is the one that is orchestrating the whole flow between the OpenAI endpoint to get the summarization of the whole audio, but also into the speech-to-text cognitive services to transcribe the whole audio. And once all of those steps are done, it saves it to Cosmos DB. If we also have a look at our durable function application here, we can go into, say, for example, the orchestration here and look at the invocations history to see what that looks like. So here is where we can see the information about the execution. Let me refresh here. Oh, looks like that is done. But then finally, I just wanted to show you the final end result of that whole orchestration. Here is where I uploaded Azure Functions and the Azure Functions audio. And at the top, we have the full transcription of the audio, Azure Functions, serverless compute, and it goes on and on and on. And then after that is done, called into the LLM in OpenAI to give us a summary of that audio, which is here, right? It's a shorter summary of the whole audio. So that's the end-to-end of the scenario here that I wanted to show you. And this hands-on lab, just to highlight again, it uses Azure Functions in the very new Flex Consumption hosting plan. This is the hosting plan that we introduced in November in GA, and it was purpose-built to be able to be a consumption-based SKU so that it scales to zero. You don't pay when there's no executions, but it also was built to scale super fast so it can scale out and in quite fast to meet the demand of your applications. And we also are using the Azure OpenAI binding. Just to show you what that looks like in the code, here's where the audio transcription blob, where we, after the upload has started with the blob trigger with the event grid source, and then that kicks off this audio transcription orchestration here as well. And then in here is where we call into starting the transcription, checking the transcription status, and getting the transcription, and etc. And throughout all of these activities, we will use different triggers and bindings to do the enrichment. So, for example, here is where we're using the Azure OpenAI bindings for Azure Functions to make it a lot easier for you to talk to OpenAI. And here's the one that we're using for text completion, for example. So there's 4 lines of code here. 2 of them is just logging, and 1 is the return. So basically, that binding is doing all of the actual work to talk to text completion OpenAI model and getting the results back, which is quite powerful. There's very few lines of code for you to get that text completion and summarizing the content of the file. Also, this we've just updated to .NET 9, It uses speech to text and also Azure OpenAI with GPT-4o Mini. And everything is been configured for managed identity, sorry. So managed identities with role-based access between all of these components, function, storage, Cosmos DB. And it's also, like I mentioned before, it has been Azure Developers CLI enabled. Now that the AZD team, talked about the templates, we should probably turn this whole thing into one more template there. And then finally, just to share where you can get this, and I haven't shared it yet, but the top one here is where you can go to the workshop. It's a web page that talks you through all the steps, but you can also go straight to where the code is. So this is where the code for the hands-on lab is. If you want to learn more about flex consumption specifically, this is where the GA announcement is, with more details about flex consumption. And finally, there's a broader list of samples as well that we have, from very simple samples that uses flex consumption, with networking, without networking, with scale, with no scale, event grid, event hubs, different sources that you can check out and then take advantage of. So that was it for me. Very quick, just highlighting the workshop and all the technologies that we used to address that scenario using Azure.
That's super cool. No, super cool to see that end to end. I think sometimes folks kind of look at it and say, "Oh, okay, like, hey, like I can, create just a simple Azure function that does a thing or takes in a blob," right? We see these demos, right, of just taking an HTTP endpoint or blob storage trigger, but actually seeing this full end to end and all the integrations are there. I did have a question for you, because I'm not actually super familiar with flex consumption that much. I know you talked about it a little bit, but I'm super familiar with the other plans. Can you kind of talk about like when and why and how, like who would choose what plan, basically?
Right. Yeah. So flex consumption should be the new standard plan. So if your default plan, if you don't know which plan to use, just choose flex consumption. And if flex consumption is the best, if you want basically scale to zero, and if you have networking requirements, for example, or if you need very fast scaling out and in. So the majority of our customers nowadays, they have to either reach services that are protected behind a network, or they want to have the function itself only be accessible from inside services that are inside that network, and flex consumption allows that while still being able to scale to zero. For the premium plan, it's a great plan if you need Windows, because Flex is only Linux based. So if you have a dependency on Windows, or if you want to take advantage of paying for an instance, so say a whole VM, and putting multiple function apps inside of it, so take advantage of that entire instances that the premium plan offers, and then still have it scaling out and in based on the events that are triggering your functions. And then finally, the app service plan is a great hosting plan if you want to share both functions and web apps. So if you have a solution that you're already taking advantage of web apps and you want to utilize the compute that you're paying for in app service really well, and still have Azure Functions there as part of your architecture, and that's where you would use app service plans. Or also app service plans, they have some really large instance sizes that you can use. So if you have solutions for functions that require a lot of memory or a lot of CPU, then app service has those offerings as well. And then the final one is container apps. If you want to bring custom containers, if you have if you require to use GPU, for example, with your functions, then deploying function apps to container apps is the final offering there that is becoming very popular nowadays as well.
Yeah, I love it. There's a lot of options and choices out there. I actually think I want to sit down with you and the team, record a video just to be like, here is the plans. Here's the diagram of different things. It's also cool to hear that flex consumption is the new go-to, because I wouldn't have known that unless you just said it. I mean, probably it would have been the default when I create my next one, which is great to know. If someone's on the current consumption plan, can they flip the bit over to flex consumption, like in the portal, or
yeah, not yet. We are working both on a documentation guide of how you could upgrade yourself. That would be more of a things to consider. Create a flex consumption app, deploy your code there, and then stop your old one. But in the long run, we have at least goals to introduce upgrade my consumption app to flex consumption, at least from Linux consumption. Yeah.
Very cool. All right. When that's ready, we definitely need to get it on the show and show it off.
Absolutely.
That is for sure. Well, awesome. Well, thanks for walking through that entire demo. We'll put links into the chat as well. And thanks everyone for hanging out. Yeah. Awesome.
Right.
We'll see you
Thank
soon.
you.
Awesome. Cool. Cheers. All right. We got one more awesome team member here to show off some brand new things in Data API Builder. So make sure that you subscribe, stay here, ask questions in the chat. It's the one, it's the only, it's Jerry Nixon. How's it going, buddy?
Hi, James. How's it going? You hear me okay?
I can. You seem a little bit far away. I don't know if it has the right microphone selected or not, because I know you got a fancy mic in the settings.
Let me get it all right, and then we'll be perfect.
Yeah, hit that settings button, go into audio, and see what it selected. I bet it selected your laptop, if I am correct.
How about that? Is it different?
It's so much better. Wow.
So much better. All right.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. Well, thanks everyone for hanging in there and hanging us out with the first Azure Developers Live of the year. Jerry, I'm super excited because I've been playing around with Data API Builder ever since y'all been talking about it, and it's spectacular. I know you got a bunch of new things, so I'm gonna let you take it away, buddy.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, let me start by going over the cost structure for our different plans. It's free. Everything I'm about to talk about is free. And there's no premium plan. There's no special situation where you can't do it. In fact, what I'm going to show you with Data API Builder runs in Azure, but it also runs on-prem. It runs on AWS. It runs in Google. Wherever you want to run it, it's totally fine with us. And so it's open source. And here we go. Let me share my screen here and just kind of get you started about where. We'll circle back to this, but I want to make sure that you know where to go to find more information about Data API Builder. It is AKMS/DAB, Data API Builder. And so we call it DAB all the time because Data API Builder takes forever to be able to say. And so we've got this cute little logo, but there's far more to Data API Builder than this cute logo. And conceptually, where it belongs inside your solution or inside your application is in where your web API is. It doesn't necessarily replace your web API, but what it might do is supplement. Now, in many cases, it might actually replace everything. If all you're doing inside your web API is you're building CRUD operations against the database, then this could potentially replace everything. And it could take a third of your code base away. And when you think about the unit tests that you don't have to write and the complexity of your CI/CD pipeline that you don't have to implement, all of a sudden Data API Builder is spectacular. Now, we wrote it for the 4 Azure databases. That's Postgres, SQL Server, the Cosmos DB, and MySQL. And so all of those can be hosted in Azure, of course, but they can also be hosted locally on your machine or in a server on your network or in some other cloud. And so we don't care. Wherever it is totally fine. There's no special hook in there to make sure that you're inside Azure. In fact, the whole goal is really to reduce the friction that developers feel when they're trying to integrate with a database. And so as many applications as we make, those applications are pretty cool. But until we introduce some sort of backend data store, those applications never can be like their full potential. And if you're building an enterprise application today, then the starting place is a data store. I mean, that's where you would begin before we'd even build the application. How hard is it then to integrate with that database? We want to make it as simple as possible. And so it's not a matter of, man, we don't like the SQL driver, and so we've made it so you don't have to use it. We don't like Entity Framework, so we've made it so you don't have to use it. That's not the point at all. The point is that if all you're doing is this repetitive brainless stuff, then it makes plenty of sense for you to be able to use something that was written the way you would have written it. So the same type of technologies that you would have used, ASP.NET on the back, right? The same, we're using the same frameworks as you are. We're writing the same code as you would write. And that's one of the benefits of us being open source. You can just look for yourself. There's nothing exotic here. It is basically the same repeatable, proven pattern that everybody is using for data access through a data API. And we're making it so that it's inside a single engine. Then that engine runs inside a container. And as a result, that one container needs nothing. It's not code generation. It's just executing inside the engine. And you provide it with a JSON file that indicates or describes your data source. So I'm using SQL Server, and these are the tables that I want. Now, getting started with DAB is pretty easy. It's a .NET tool, so you can say .NET Tools install Microsoft Data API Builder. But even then, there is a little bit of a burden to kind of understand what it is we want. And so what I wanted to show off today is the ability, or one of the family of extensions that we've added to Visual Studio Code to help developers get started. So it is crazy. You can go from 0 to hero in like a couple of seconds. Wait till you see it. You'll be like, this is ridiculous. And it is pretty cool. Now, let me just put a pin in it and let that be the exciting thing I'm about to show you. But before I do, I want to just kind of bring your attention to an applied skill that we have now inside Microsoft Learn to help you learn not just this, but all of the extra little innovations that have been added to SQL Server over the last few years. If you're a normal developer and you're familiar with SQL, but you don't know, but you haven't been keeping up with all the innovations that have been happening recently, this is the solution for you. So we've created an applied skill that steps you piece by piece all the way through, including Data API Builder, all the things you need to know in order to really take advantage of the capabilities now inside Azure SQL DB and those capabilities that are going to be shipping inside SQL Server 2025 at the end of the year. And so all of these things are like, how am I going to get my head wrap around this? Here's the way to do it. What's even better about an applied skill is when you take it, it's a little bit like an exam. When you take it, we provision a portion of Azure for you. Inside there, you prove that you do it. So it's not a bunch of questions on an exam. You actually show that you're able to do it. So it's a cool thing you can show off on LinkedIn or whatever it is you I don't know, however it is you show how smart you are. However, let's go back to the extension inside Visual Studio Code to help us get started. So this is really an add-on to Data API Builder. This isn't fundamentally the engine. Obviously, it's just meant to make it a really great experience for you. It's the Omnibus extension. There are many Data API Builder extensions inside Visual Studio Code. And you're like, which one do I need? You need this one. Just Data API Builder Omnibus. That's all of them together in one place. And so you'll get the right extensions, you'll get the right versions, and everything will lay out the way you expect it. So that's really, really great. But instead of talking about it, let me show it to you because that's where it really kind of shines. And so let me start with Visual Studio Code. I already have it installed. If I go over to my extensions here and I search for Omnibus, that's the easiest way to find it. Only 2 extensions in the marketplace use the word, so it makes it really easy to find. And so it's the Data Builder Omnibus. And so once you have it installed, you can see all the extensions that are added with it. So it just takes a second or two for them all to install. They're all very, very small extensions. And once you have it in place, then you can really go to town. So let me show you some of the things that you would do typically with the JSON file used for Data API Builder. And so we call that a DAB config file. I don't know, what else are you going to call it? And so I have an empty folder here. When I right click it, I have the ability to start. So, right. So this is dab init. And so dab init is the normal CLI command that we use for Data API Builder to get started. So let me go ahead and say dab init. And this is basically saying, I don't have a configuration file. I'm starting from 0. And so it pops up and it says, how do you want to do this? And so there are some best practices, and those best practices may not fit your workflow. And so this is the option for you to use them or not use them. Let me just walk through what those are. The first one is whether or not your secrets are stored in an env file. This is particularly nice. We've supported env files for many versions. And it allows you basically to take the name value pair for your environment and to be able to put those into a file that you don't have to include in your repository, right? You can add it either with a git ignore so that it is not pushed up to your repository, or you can move it to another location, whatever makes sense to you. And so this sets this up for you. Say, do you want to use an env? I will, because it makes it really, really easy. Do you want to go ahead and generate the manifest for the .NET tool? So I may not have DAB installed, but if I check this, then I'm going to go ahead and create the manifest that will install the DAB tool for me. Right? So that's just a handy way to do it. So you might think, well, no, thanks, I don't really need that. That's fine. Right? We want to kind of meet where you are. The other thing is, we can deploy this easily into your solution, either running on a server or in its own container host service. It's sort of up to you what you want to do. This is a completely stateless engine, so you have a lot of architectural options. And you can go in and say static web app as well. So if you don't want to have Azure Kubernetes services or ACA or ACI or all the other ways of hosting a container, if you're like, I don't want to do that. I don't, maybe you're not familiar with a container, or maybe you're just looking for a POC by lunch. And so you're like, what I really want to do is I want to do it in static web apps. Well, the structure and format of the DAB config file doesn't change if you're using it in static web apps. However, the name of the file is required to be a certain name. So if I check this, then it'll automatically become or be written out to be in that name. That's the only change that's really there. Why do we do that? Well, frankly, every time I do something inside a static web app and I think about what this special name is, I forget it. And so I have to go to the docs. So for me, it's a lot easier just to check this box so I know I get the right thing. That's pretty neat. All right, so I'll use an env file. I'll uncheck everything else for now. I could have left it. It's not that big of a deal. And now it asks for the connection string into my database. Now, I'm running it inside Docker, right? So I have a, let me pull it up so I can show you. Right here's Docker running for me. I have SQL Server running. This is pretty handy. Not everybody knows SQL runs in a container. Not everybody knows SQL runs on Linux. And so it's a neat thing to be able to just kind of show that, kind of blows some people's minds. And so SQL's running there. I have the connection string, and well, I'll have to repeat my process here just a little bit, but I have the connection string. I'll leave everything checked as the default. I'll paste in my connection string in my, let's see, do I have it? So there we go. Beautiful. All right. It's just a standard connection string that goes into my container. You can copy my password and use it. PASSWORD. It's beautiful. And so I'll say go. And what's beautiful here is it is not doing something special. It is just running the command line, the DAB command line that would have done it anyway. So if you're like, I wonder how I would do this if I didn't have it. Well, this is a really great way to be able to learn all the let's say the complexity around the command line to make sure you understand how to do it right. So you can see here that we ran dab init right here inside the terminal for you and passed in all the things you needed. And so if we look here at all the files that were created, that's because we left many of those things checked, right? The first is, here's the manifest that will install the .NET tool for us. Here's the env file that will be setting our connection string for us inside the environment, but not just the environment, but inside the process scope of the environment. That means that no other application running will be able to use these values, right? So it's really, really nice. And then finally, I put a git ignore here because just in case you forget, I want to make sure that you never accidentally check in and commit your env file into your repository. You can delete this if you have a .NET, if you have a .ignore file of your own. If you already had one in the folder, by the way, and you're worried that it might get erased, it doesn't. It just appends .env to your existing git ignore. If you already have an env file and you're worried that this will be erased, it also will not. It will be appended as well. So that's nice. It tries to make it so that you don't have to do it inside a empty or brand new folder, but if you do, this is how it looks. And so here's my configuration file. Just trust that everything is there the way you need it to be. And what's nice is I can right click on it. And now there's a lot more options than there were before. And so the first one I can go to is just validate. And what that does is it runs my connection file and sees whether or not the connection, it runs my configuration file and sees whether or not the connection string into SQL Server works or not. And so here you can see config is valid. That means all the JSON is valid, but also the connection string is valid. And now I can start to add my tables. That's where it really starts to matter, because I'm trying to create an endpoint for my application so that I can interact with it either through REST or GraphQL. And so let me just right click here and say add, and I get to add here, let's say tables first. This list of tables comes from my database. The reason it comes from the database is because I have the connection string that you just provided to me. So I can go out and read it, and I can say, let's just take them all. I take all of these and say, okay. And it will add all of these to my configuration file for me. And it'll do it by what you would expect using the CLI command. So if I were to scroll up through my terminal here, I can see that dab add, and then it adds that table and how it adds the table. So if there's a mystery in your mind of like, how does all this command line work? Well, we just write it out for you so you can check it out yourself. And it's more straightforward than you think. But even if it were super duper easy and there was nothing to it, it's still more you have to type. It's really a neat way to get started. So all I've done so far is create the initial file and add tables to it. Truth of the matter is that's all I need. But let me right click on it and say visualize. So this will create a mermaid diagram that, let's see if I can hide that. It'll create a mermaid diagram to show you all the tables, views, and store procedures that you have inside your config file. You can use this visualize even if you created your config file some other way. And so now I can look at it and be like, oh, there are all the tables. Look at that, those 6 tables that make up my database. Now, the truth is, these tables are related to each other, and we can bring in those relationships so that we can see and use them, right? So I can right click here and I can say add, but this time I'll choose relationships. It'll list all of the relationships that are relevant to the tables that are currently in my configuration file that are defined inside my database, right? So it's like basically saying, here are all the tables I have. Have you defined any relationships, and could I use them? And so I'll just go ahead and select them all so I can show you what this does, right? And so it goes through and adds all the relationships using the command line like you would expect. I can right click on the JSON file again and say visualize. It updates that mermaid diagram so that, let me hide the and now you can see it's the same set of tables, but now the lines between them represent the relationship constraints that were in the database. This is really handy because now when I start to interact with these in my endpoint, I can have relationships between all of my entities. Now, we support both REST and GraphQL. So REST is very straightforward. In fact, let's go ahead and start this just so you can see what it looks like. I'll right click, and this time I'll say start, right? All the dab commands are just sitting right there. So I'll say start. It opens up the terminal, and it gave me an error right in the middle of my demo. That's terrific. Let me back up and see what's going on. I already have it running from a previous demo. All right, let's try it again. It's nice to know that I'm prepping. All right, I clicked dab start again after I stopped it from running from my previous window to terminal there. And anyway, so once it's running, you can see that it has both HTTP and HTTPS. And so I'll use HTTPS, but you can go either way. It's the same, right? One is just with or without a local certificate. And so let me pull down my browser that just opened. And at the root, it's just showing you that it is healthy. Now, this is exciting. We're about to release version 1.4. Next comes 1.5, of course. That's next month. And 1.4 is a bunch of just stability and bug fixes that should be out actually this week and maybe this morning, and which is really exciting. So you can see I'm running 1.3, so I don't have 1.4 just yet, and then 1.5 is coming. So 1.4 is our stability release. 1.5 will be our feature release. And so one of the things that's coming in our next feature release will be an entire health endpoint that will give you all kinds of information about connection thresholds and timing around your database and all your different endpoints. So remember, this is both Graph and REST. So let me go to Swagger just real quick. Oh, I put a dot instead. Let me go to /Swagger. Here we go. So Swagger and Banana Cake Pop both ship if you're in development mode of Data API Builder to allow you to test and interact with your endpoints. And so I have the actor table. So this is a database of Star Trek characters. And so if I go in and I go to get, which is the most basic of all of them, and I say, let's try this out. So I'm going to get all of the actors. I can execute it. And when I do, it returns there's William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, DeForest Kelley, like you would expect, right? So what it's doing is the engine is querying the database, turning into JSON for you and passing it back. That means that your application now can interact with the database, doing all the CRUD operations. So you can still create, read, update, and delete, fully secure, cacheable, and everything else. all through HTTP and JSON, right? So it's beyond simple. So what framework do you need to make Data API Builder work? None. What language does it support? All of them. And I mean, it's just one of those kind of crazy scenarios where why wouldn't you add this for all the basic operations that you need? There's extensibility points. There's all kinds of things coming as well. And so it's really cool. But before I stop here, I want to just say, let me show you this last piece. This is REST, all the REST endpoints. And by the way, I could have said API/ACTOR, right? This is the same thing, and I can make it nice and nice looking. And this is the same as what was happening when I was in Swagger. I'm just going directly against that endpoint. It comes back as JSON that you can deserialize inside your application. However, I want to also show you Banana Cake Pop. And so if you haven't already seen it, Banana Cake Pop is the Swagger for Graph. That's really the best way of thinking of it. And so when I load up my Graph endpoint, which I just did, there's only one. So in REST, it's API/actor, API/character, API/series. In GraphQL, it's /GraphQL, nothing else. Everything is right there. And it allows you to bring back all of your entities. And it allows you also to deal with relationships between your entities. And not to get too far into GraphQL, I just want you to see how cool it is. I could just say, let's create a brand new query just real quick. And I could say, let's bring back the actors. Here's the actors. And items are column names in there. So I'll say, give me the name, and I'll run it. And so just like before, wait, let's see. Actors, items, actors, items, actors, items, endpoint. All right, I don't want to get caught up on this. Maybe I have something else. It doesn't matter. What's great about it is, let me zoom in and just show you, as I was building this application, or as I was building this query, what it was going to provide to me. So here I am selecting the birth year, the ID, the name, and this subsection right here is the character, right? That's because I have a relationship defined between the actor and the character. So then I can go in and say, don't just return the name of the actor, but also return the name of the character that he played. And beyond that, I could say, let's go into species. What species was that character? And so I can go on and on and on, because these relationships have been defined by Data API Builder. And I can then build this like sophisticated query that might make more sense for the mobile application or the website that I'm about to show it on. All the way around, though, what's cool today is we're kind of really having a lot of fun by building just all of this productivity into Visual Studio Code for developers to be able to start from scratch. And let me do it one last time, just to make the point of, if I had this connection string in my clipboard here, let me delete everything that's there, close everything out that I have here, and start from scratch one more time. I say init, and I'll paste in the connection string. It already knows that the database is there. I'll right click and say, let's add some tables. I'll say go. I'll say, now all the tables have been added to my configuration file. And the last thing I'll do is I'll right click and say start. Now I am up and going with except for, don't forget, if you already have it running, you have to close all the others. There we go. And so I'll right click and say start. And now I have my endpoint up and ready. I can do all of the creates, read, update, and delete I would want to do against my Postgres database, my SQL Server, or whatever it is that you're using. And so there's a lot of deep functionality here that comes like that. And so there was already friction using the database. We wanted to reduce that by having Data API Builder. And there was a little bit of friction using Data API Builder. We wanted to reduce that using these extensions inside Visual Studio Code. So try them out yourself. If you haven't already seen DAB, then try it out. You're going to love it. It's the repository is akms/dab. It'll take you here. And I want to invite you that at the very top of our README is a place where you can sign up and be part of our community. So as we go through our roadmap and we're trying to prioritize features in the future, we'll send it out to our community so they can help us prioritize and show things as well. So if you want to be part of the team, you can absolutely do it right there. We're not asking you to submit a pull request. We're just asking for your name and kind of asking what you're doing, because it's a neat set of stories of how different customers are using Data API Builder across, from the largest, trust me, the largest enterprise you can imagine, to tiny little classroom scenarios where all you're doing is learning what serialization and deserialization means, and you can do that in your JSON application, or in your JavaScript application, or your C# application. So a lot of neat stuff, James. A lot of ways that we have tried to make it so that a developer's experience is as easy as possible, so that they can get started and kind of focus on all the development work instead of focusing on all the nitty gritty that's kind of under their nose.
That's so cool, Jerry. I love to see it. I love the end-to-end demo and how easy it is, even just like you wiping it out, putting it back in, and kind of like going it down there, which is so cool. And it's really cool that, a lot of people are used to creating REST APIs. It's very simple, but it's cool that it does generate both Graph and REST. You have everything available for you. I do have a lot of CRUD operations, and I know you've been telling me to get rid of all my things and just go all in on Data API Builder. But now I think you convinced me. I think it's good to go. We do have one question from the chat. Sune asks, is DAB really just kind of like a scaffolding framework? Is it more than that? Can it be extended? Can it be modified, or what's in the box kind of happens? Like, is there customization beyond what you showed?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I think it's kind of confusing because we see so many scaffolding frameworks out there. So this is not that. It is running inside a container that you can add. In fact, if you are a fan of .NET Aspire, then you can use the .NET Aspire Community Toolkit, and you can add Data API Builder just as a .add Data API Builder, pass it in your SQL Server.
Whoa. Okay,
Yeah.
we need to do a video on that, Jerry. That is for sure.
I'm so glad I got to tell you that, James. I knew you would get excited about it. But no, so it's not scaffolding. Can you expand it? Well, you can't, right? I mean, you can expand it a little bit, but the truth of the matter is it kind of is what it is. And I think a lot of developers have asked me over the years, because this is 3.5 years in. And so a lot of people have asked me over the years, can it do something that it's not supposed to do, right? Can it do load balancing, for example? I'm like, well, that's not what a CRUD API is supposed to do. Like, load balancing is for something else. And so we get to a lot of these sorts of questions. Now, I will say this, James, if you have a web API that is super sophisticated and it's doing this business action, that, you know what I mean? All of those things, this is not a replacement for that. This is a replacement for those generic vanilla sort of, we have first level caching, all the things you kind of want. We support intra ID, of course. But if you have intense business logic, that belongs in a web API that's custom to your solution and brings value to your application. This replaces all the CRUD nonsense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, exactly. It could be complementary, right? You might start with DAB and then you might build something else on top of it. There's no reason you can't have more APIs, right?
No, there's no reason. Exactly right. Yeah.
Well, awesome, Sherry. Thank you so much for this demo.
Thank you, James.
I'm going to slice this up. We're going to put it out on the Azure Developers YouTube as well, because I think it's just a fantastic demo. Thank you so much, Jerry. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cheers. All right, that is going to do it for this Azure Developers Live. Make sure you subscribe to the Azure Developers YouTube and check out the Azure Developers Hub over on developer.microsoft.com/Azure for all these goodies and so much more. We're going to be bringing you all of the latest enhancements from the world of Azure developers every single week here. So subscribe, like, do all those things. That's going to do it for this one. So until next time, thanks for watching. Go check out all of the latest things and leave comments below on YouTube. We really appreciate it. So until the next one.